Now, 30 people are shot dead daily in South Africa, and about 180 more are wounded in gun violence. This shocking discovery was made in the Firearms Control Report by Gun Free South Africa. This is a non-government organization committed to reducing gun violence. Well, it seems gun violence is the leading cause of murder in South Africa. Well, let's discuss their findings now with Jeremy Vearey. He's a strategic advisor for Gun Free South Africa. Jeremy, good afternoon. Welcome to Today. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Good afternoon to you and the watchers.
Gun violence seems to be spiraling in South Africa, out of control. Just the other week, I interviewed somebody around this issue of how can we make sure that we reduce guns in circulation. Apparently, there's a lot of illicit weapons in circulation.
Yes, I think it would be safe to say that gun violence is viral. And with illegal firearms out there being the primary viruses active in that environment. But I think, how do we deal with this? There's one positive development on the horizon if it just gets passed. The current Firearms Amendment Bill, for example, is geared to reducing the availability of guns out there, reducing the pool that eventually becomes illegal firearms, either through negligence or through corruption, and through in the licensing process, and also through poor regulatory framework. So pushing for the passing of that bill with a fixed date, with the urgency given the explosion in gun violence that we have currently, is a matter of prime importance. But the issue I want to address is the issue of, you can have all the beautiful laws, but if you don't have the capacity to fight this effectively, then you are wasting your time. Now, one of the things as Gun Free South Africa we have been calling for consistently is to bring back the provincial and national firearm investigation units that existed in the mid-90s before it being disbanded by the then National Commissioner Selebe. Now, what did those units do? Firstly, one, the response in policing was not merely a fire brigade response where you stand around at a roadblock or do a random search and hopefully you think you can get a firearm by pox in that situation. That was not the primary investment in terms of a police response. The investment was into going to proactively investigate where these firearms come and then prosecuting up the supply line. And you will notice during that period and shortly after, when these units again, we were able to effectively work down the glut of weapons that existed as a result of third force activity, the corruption that went apart with that, like for example in one case in Cape Town where we found 3-2 battalion weapons that were used in violence in KwaZulu-Natal in the Midlands, and we found large caches in the Cape Town after 2 murder and robbery detectives died in an accident.
Sorry, Jeremy, to come in there. Sorry, are you saying that besides the law, you have to rebuild the capacity within the police service?
Yes, yes. And we proved we had a successful capacity that tackled all the glut caused by political violence and other factional third force violence at the time, took a lot of automatic weapons out of circulation, were able to investigate the pipeline from Mozambique and at that time, and mounted larger operations that were driven by proactive investigations. But the key concern has still been the biggest part of the illegal firearms out there result from cases where they were used and finalized but never found back. Let me mention that an example, and this goes back 50, 60, 100 years. When you have a conviction for a murder where a firearm is used and you have somebody sentenced and it's concluded, a charge is added for illegal possession of firearm by presumption. Now, that does not mean that we ever brought the firearm to court. It's by presumption of what you found guilty of. So can you think for a moment how many thousands of firearms are out there every year that never gets retrieved because there's not a dedicated effort and capacity to go and find those firearms like we used to do in the past with taxi violence gang incidents when we had the firearm investigation unit.
Okay.
Because we said we're not going to close the docket like we're allowed to now, and we're happy with the conviction, and there we must now search for the gun. So maybe something needs to be looked at in our criminal justice system that makes it an obligation on us to actually find those firearms.
Okay, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That's Jeremy Vearey, Strategic Advisor for Gun Free South Africa, talking to us from our studios in Cape Town.